Hola a todos! We often talk about efficient working on this channel, so how to get your things done efficiently. And one aspect of how to do something efficiently is the tools we use. And I think especially when it's about software, doing office things, we often don't really think about the tools we are using. But the tools are the basis for making us efficient or, well, less efficient. So in this video and upcoming videos, I want to talk about how we choose tools, how we choose software tools, what they can do for us, and how they can help us or, well, make us slower even. I mean, even a software tool can even make us inefficient if we chose the wrong one. So this first video is about starting to think about why you use tools, what you use them for, how you choose a tool, and what should be your criteria, and how you can change tools. Because especially in software, we often get new tools. And, well, what is a reason to change? And should we change? When is a good moment to think about using another tool? And this is true on the individual level, but you can also use this to think about organizational tools, like if you have a company and you think about what kind of software do you use and do your employees use. So one example is like normal office applications. Let's say you're creating an interesting table and you want to do calculations in them. Well, that's pretty clear you will use a spreadsheet program. But maybe you also want to present that table later. That would mean you need something to present some kind of slides, like some PowerPoint or something like that. And maybe you also want to use that data to present it as a kind of report. That would be more like a document program. So which of them do you use? You can use a combination, of course. You can use all three and then copy things over. Or you may choose just one of them. Maybe you can style your table very nicely in your spreadsheet program and then take a screenshot of that. Or even do the whole presentation in that spreadsheet if it's a lot of calculation. Or you can use slides even for a report. So you can think about which of them is best for your purpose at that moment. So, and they're not really clear because all of them have tables. You know, you have a table in a text document, you have a table on slides, you have spreadsheet tables. So what's the point of your table? Is it to illustrate something, to make it look beautiful? Then it might be on the slide. Or is it more about doing calculations? Then it would be more the spreadsheet. But it's not always clear, and sometimes you want all of them, but you cannot really get them in one tool. Or another example, I think that people do not consider often enough, is how to transfer data from one person or one computer to another. Often we use just email, but honestly, with email, in a way, everyone can read that email. Do you really want that? So if you're like in the same building, why not just use a USB stick? That would be much more secure. Of course, it's slightly more work because you have to put that USB stick in and then maybe walk to to your destination and hand it over. But it's not a lot of extra work, and it might be beneficial depending on how secret that information is. Or there are file transfer systems that you can use to do that. But this is one of the cases, I think, where people do often not think about what is the best tool. They just use the standard tool and don't really think about the consequences. And of course, favorite example, to-do lists. This is the To-Do Listo channel, of course. It's also about how specific you want to choose your application. So a program like To-Do Listo is specifically made to manage to-do lists, while you could also use a more general program, actually a spreadsheet. You can use any kind of text document. You can make slides for your to-dos if you like, or just a text file or note-taking program to manage your to-dos. So one is very specific to this specific task, so managing to-dos, and the other is a general thing that happens to have enough functionality to also be usable as a to-do list. So what should be your criteria, or what could be your criteria? I mean, the ones that I'm presenting here are really just suggestions, and they may vary. Some it may even be for some things, one criterion is more important to you, and for other applications something else. And maybe you have other things that are important to you, so you can think about it. This is more about really starting to think about it, not so much telling you how to choose your tools. So an obvious thing is the functionality, of course. If you choose software, it should do what you want it to do. That sounds pretty trivial, but actually it's not so easy to know what the functionality is that you want. This is actually very visible when software is created for a specific task. So the naive way is to sit down and make a list of things that you want the software to do. I can promise you that this is not going to work ever. So the way to find out what you need is to observe in a real environment when you're really doing the things. And this is also actually if software is made specifically for a task that it has to develop. It has to be used, and you have to see what happens, and then you can add to it. And I get to that point actually later for how to choose software. There's also this question that I already mentioned with to-do list options that you have. Do you use a universal software that can do lots of things and happens to be also somehow able to do one specific task that you're after? Or do you use a special tool that is created for this specific task? And it's really hard. I mean, there is no general answer. It really depends on so many factors and on the specific needs that you have. Of course, a universal program is nice in the sense that you only have to learn this one program. You also have a kind of interaction between different tasks that is automatically built in because it's the same software. But a universal program can also be too much, so you have to learn too much. The functionality is too complex for the thing that you need. So yeah, it really depends. It's hard to say, but it's still interesting to see how universal is a program, and when does it serve you to be universal, and when is it rather the opposite. And connected with that is also the usability and the learnability of that software. So actually, this is really interesting for somebody who's into usability. You can actually give people the worst usability as long as they're used to it. People can adapt to absolutely everything. So even bad usability may not be so bad as long as you've learned it and got used to it. And this is also, I think, the reason why people are often reluctant to change their software, because they're so used to it. And in a way, yeah, it's true. There is a time investment to change your habits. And there must be a good reason to do that. So again, it's hard. You can gain usability. You may be able to do things more quicker later. But it does take some time investment, and you never know if that is justified. So I'm actually personally a bit lazy in adapting to different programming environments. So when you program code, there are lots of very specialized tools that can do a lot for you. They can even compile, they can show you your errors even before you've seen it in the compiler, or they're integrated with the compiler. And there's so much functionality. But I'm actually just using a very simple text editor. It has some code highlighting, but not much more. Because I don't see the benefits of investing the time to learn all this extra functionality, because I'm not missing it at all. I'm very happy with what I have. I don't really know what I'm missing, and sometimes I think maybe I should invest that time. But up to now, I still stick to my very simple text editor. But this is really a very personal and very individual thing to decide for each tool that you're using. A second point that is important for choosing your tool is the availability. Do you really have that tool? And what does it cost you to get it? So in many cases, we actually have defaults set by the organization that we work in or work for. Maybe even by the operating system. Sometimes a computer comes with a set of programs that we can just use. And sometimes these defaults are good, sometimes they're not so good. Sometimes, I mean, we have no choice. If our employer tells us to use a certain software because the whole company is using it, well, yeah, then we use it. But of course, companies should be very careful in choosing the software because it impacts so many people and the efficiency of all their employees. But sometimes we can choose. So if something comes with the operating system, that doesn't mean we have to use that tool. We can also use something else. Another thing about availability is how long will it be available? So maybe we have a software now and we have our data in there. Sometimes we have these online services and we store data there. How long will it be available? Is my data still there when I need it in 5 years? That's hard to tell. I mean, it's always hard to tell for every kind of system, but it might be a consideration that in some circumstances may be important to you. And of course, the price. Price can be in data or in money, maybe even in other things, but usually it's data or money nowadays. And the question is also, what does it cost now and what might it cost in the future? So online services can change their conditions, they can change their prices, and especially if it's some subscription model, you have to be prepared to pay for a longer time. So these are all things that go together. But of course, on the other hand, a higher price is not always something negative, because honestly, software costs money. Programming is time consuming and programmers want to earn money as well. So it may also be important to think about if something is too cheap. Why is it so cheap? Is it low quality? Is it that you pay with your data without being aware of it? So why is something cheap? And how much is it, what's the worth for you? You know, what's in for you? What are you getting out of it? So what would be a reasonable price to pay? Because that can really go in both directions. So price is just a consideration. I'm not saying that a lower price is always better. Actually not. Just with everything else. I mean, it's the same with car. You can buy the cheapest car you can get, but maybe you have to buy the next car next week. So, and the third criterion, big group of criteria for me is trust. And I think this is getting more important right now, and we might not always be aware to really think about it, because when you think about how software is created nowadays, you hardly ever create a software from scratch. You don't just start with your programming language, and even that is something that has to come from somewhere, a compiler. You don't write the compiler yourself. So you take software from somebody else and in a way recompose it into new software and add a little bit more code. So I think most people are not aware of how networked software is nowadays, even if it's not networked live in the sense that I'm requesting data from an online service, but I might be using libraries or other types of software and put that together into a new software. And then you get the question of responsibility. If something's not working, whose fault is that? And you cannot really expect that a software vendor knows everything, but on the other hand, if they sell you something, they do have a certain responsibility. So this is really also, it goes down also to the people who produce the software or offer services. But for you personally, it's really a question of how much do you trust that company or that organization that provides the software that you're using. And trust can also include, of course, different things. One is reliability, which is very much connected to functionality. Does the software really do what it promises to do? That sounds kind of trivial. I mean, yeah, if it tells me to calculate something, I want the result to be correct. But that's not always true. And this is actually, I think, gaining importance now in times of AI magic, where it's often not clear actually what the software is even doing. So when you think about generative AI, like ChatGPT, people often assume that this is a system that was made to answer questions and give you correct answers. But this is not true. That system was created to create text. Full stop. That text may contain interesting or correct information, or it may not. But if somebody sells you this as a kind of question answering system to really give you answers, then this is actually, it's not reliable. It will not always give you correct answers. So this is a question really like, does the system really do what I think it does? And does it do this all the time, every time, reproducibly? It also is connected with the question of, can I always reach that service? If it's an online service, if it's available only 50% of the time, can I really use that? Depends on what you want to do with it. Then, of course, we have the things connected with data. On the one hand, we have security issues. So can I be sure that if I store my data on somebody else's server, computer, can I be sure that not somebody else is reading my data? Maybe I don't want to share my data with the rest of the world. So can I be sure that this is not happening? Another thing connected with data is the privacy. Like, what is the organization that's offering the service? What are they doing with my data? This is the thing with payment in data. Do I want them to process my data? If I store like medical records somewhere, do I really want them to process that data? Maybe I do. Maybe I'm happy with that. Maybe it's for science. Maybe I want to offer my data for these things, or maybe I do not. So again, that depends very much on your specific case, on what you want to use the tool for, but it's certainly a consideration. And yeah, when we have these criteria now, when is a reason that we want to change our tools? Well, the thing is, things change, software changes to the better or worse. So on the one hand, there can be new software that we want to try, and maybe somebody told us, hey, there's a new tool for managing to-do lists, let's say. So you want to try Totolisto, maybe. On the other hand, your existing tools can change. On the one hand, it could be good. They add functionality, and maybe they add so much functionality that you can stop using another special tool that you used to have for some special task, and now another tool got more universal. Fine. But also tools can go in the other direction. Maybe they, when somebody sells software, they don't produce it just for you. They have lots of customers. So maybe they are going into a direction that is not exactly what you need. And then you might have to change the software and rather buy from somebody who is producing software that does more specifically what you need. Or maybe your software vendor has not done anything to the software and it just got old. Maybe it's not safe anymore to store your data there, or it just doesn't have the functionality that you need. So whatever it is, you can, so either, or maybe just you have new tasks to do. That can also happen, of course. You have something new to do. You don't even have a software yet for that right now, so you have to find new software. I think it helps to really be aware of how we're doing things, and then we can, start to think about having new software. It's like with everything else. I mean, there's no real answer of when to do that. It's a time investment, of course, searching for new tools and trying them. And on the other hand, you can gain something in efficiency or reliability or whatever. So when you're considering to change software or to acquire new software or to add something, some service to what you're using, what I can advise you is to manage your time specifically for that. So be aware that it is an investment. It is a time investment to think about a new tool. So the best, what you can try is to minimize that time investment. So especially when you're thinking about software for an organization, you will have to transfer data maybe to a new system. You will have to maybe implement new interfaces to other software that you're using. So before you do all that, before you invest in this effort, first try your new software in the specific situation that you want to use it. Don't just look at it. Don't look at presentations alone. Try to do it with your data in the situations that you're working. So really use it in your everyday life. And if you need like interfaces, data transfer, whatever, simulate it. Use copy and paste. Actually, that's the most stable interface that you can get ever. So first try to do it as much as you can with your data. And if that is not possible, or even before maybe as a first impression, what I often do is to look at YouTube videos, because either the vendor themselves or other people who are using the software often demonstrate the software. So you can really look at how they are using it. How many clicks do they use? Does it really look efficient to you of how they use that? Do you really want to work that way? Can you imagine yourself working in that way? So really try to put yourself into a real situation when you have needed this type of program, and try to imagine using that. Or if possible, try it yourself. You often can get test accounts or something, or like with Todolisto, you don't even need an account. There's a free version where you don't have to register, so you can just go to the website and just try it for a day or two. Whether you have used like a to-do list before, then you can see how it compares to using, let's say, Todolisto. Or if you've never used a to-do list, you can just try it for a day or two to see, does that help you if I write down my tasks? That doesn't cost a lot, and you can try it. And again, it depends on the software or the service of how much you can try yourself. The more you get into your real situation, the better. That's the one thing that I can really tell you. So, to wrap up, I think it's helpful to now and then just get a bit more conscious about the tools that we're using, why we're using them, and if they're still the best ones. Just because we have used them 10 years ago, is that still the best tool? Maybe something has changed. And in following weeks, months, I will have more videos on tools where we will compare certain tools to one another and get into these things a bit more specifically. So I hope to see you then. Hasta luego.